heroes and there are legends. Heroes come and go. Legends never die. We usually say that you cannot become a legend before death. These are living legends. If the legends fall silent, who will teach the children of our ways? Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 5, brought to you by Titan Sensor, is proud to present The Legends. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches Podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 5, the Legend Series, and do I have a true legend for you today, Dr. Danny Cronic, Coach Cronic. Thanks for being on with me.
Looking forward to it.
Well, Coach Cronic, as I do with everyone, could you start off telling everybody where you grew up?
Well, I grew up, basically, I was, I guess in about the 4th grade, we moved to Athens, and I went for Winterville for 1 year. Then I went to Cobbard, and then we went to Madison County High School. And it hadn't had football very long, but that's when my first experience with football was at Madison County High School.
Well, when you were in high school growing up, did y'all just play one sport, or did you play everything?
Well, I ended up, the basketball I played maybe a year, and played a year of baseball, but I was basically getting home from school was a problem. So I did a lot of hitchhiking, which is about 12 miles. So that's my excuse for not playing more things, but I mainly wanted to work on football.
And as I understand it, you walked on at the University of Georgia, didn't you?
I did. That was Coach Dooley's first team in 1964. And I need to tell a story kind of leading up to that. Furman is not that far away. Greenville's not that far away from Athens. I had gone up to Furman to try out. And Daddy asked me coming back what I thought about it. I said, Daddy, I kind of liked it. And they offered me a half scholarship. He said, well, what's it going to cost? I said, it's going to cost $2,000. And he said, He said, what's it going to cost you to go to Georgia? I said, Daddy, I don't know. He said, I know. It's going to cost $65 a quarter. I'll take you and drop you off at school and feed you and house you. I think that's the best thing to do here. So from there, I walked on as a freshman on Coach Dooley's first team, and it was a heck of an experience.
So what position did you play when you walked on?
I played quarterback in high school, but probably after a week or two, the ligaments were torn in my thumb. And so I moved to running back. And then wasn't too long into spring practice till I dislocated my big toe or got something called turf toe. And I wasn't fast enough already because I wasn't very big. So that kind of, I was target practice for a while. But my neck got pretty big. I got a big old neck, and my waist dropped down to about 26 or 27. So I was funny looking at that point in time.
Well, what did you go to college to be a high school teacher and coach, or did you go to do something else and wander off into the wrong line?
I really wanted just to play football. I wished I'd been good enough. But if I couldn't play, and then I wanted to coach. So after graduation, and then I went on and got my master's and was a grad assist there in the PE department. Then I was in service. I went in the Army. I had through ROTC, and then that turned out to be a good experience. So my time at Georgia, I was close to Athens, we weren't but about 8 miles away. I went to all the ball games when I was even in elementary school. So I remember Daddy taking me to my first football game It was when Georgia played Georgia Tech, and Coach Butts had given Daddy some tickets on the 50-yard line. And that was my first football game. And they knocked the fire out of one another. The field was painted green. I think the horticulture department did that then. And they had Toppy Van, I think, was a quarterback for Tech. And I can't remember who all the people were now, but I think Johnny Carson may have been playing for Georgia. And he punted the ball and it didn't come down. So there were a lot of things going on there that caught my imagination. And I knew I really loved football from then on.
Yeah, I imagine you were Bulldog born and Bulldog bred from that point on.
Well, when we moved away from Athens when I was in the third grade, I was a Georgia Tech fan, but that didn't fit real well where I went to elementary school. So I had to change.
So what was your first, in the military, what was your job in the military? Did you have like a specialist, or did you have a specialty you did, or were you just an infantry guy, or?
Well, it turned out great. My mother thought that I was being shipped to Vietnam, but locally, what helped me a lot is it turned out that I was on Okinawa, and I was a special services officer. Now, that was the one in charge of all the recreation and all the parks and the theaters and golf courses and all that. Boy, that fit in with me just great. And we had inter-service football, and we'd have 10, 15, 20,000 folks at a game. And we would be playing. They had one other Army team on the island, and they were the Loggers. And then we had two Air Force teams. There was Kadena and Naha. And then we had two Marine teams. And it was physical. It was physical. You had folks that had played pro ball, and you had some that had just been good high school players. But I enjoyed that time.
So when you got done with the service, did you go right into teaching, or did you keep coaching at the college level? What was your first job after that?
My first job was at Cherokee High School in Canton, Georgia. And I'm trying to remember, John Stone was the head coach the first year. And the second year, Bobby Pate came, and that kind of got me started. And then he played non-region, and when I became the head coach the next year, and we went back into the region, and it was a bit of a struggle. I learned a lot about what not to do, but that was my first experience. But I really enjoyed Canton and the Cherokee County. That was good.
How long were you the head coach there how old were you when you got there? I'm sorry, I'm jumping all around. How old were you when you were the first named the head coach?
26 or 27.
Mm.
So, and that was a challenge. That was a challenge. We weren't very good, but we got a lot better each year. And I'm trying to remember now. I think I was a head coach there for 4 years. I'm thinking I'm not pulling that up right now.
Okay.
But then from there we went to Middle Tennessee State, where I coached and worked on my doctorate.
Oh, okay. So at Middle Tennessee State, was Coach Pate there, or had he already gone to West Georgia at that time?
No, he hadn't been there. My first one there was. I'm trying to remember the head coach there.
That's okay.
Ben Hurt was a head coach, and then Boots Donnelly became the head coach.
At Middle Tennessee State.
At Middle Tennessee State. Now, I learned the most on Boots' staff. That was quite a learning experience right there.
And what did you coach there?
The running backs. Coached the running backs there.
And you got your doctorate.
And I finished the coursework. It took me 2 or 3 more years to finish that dissertation. But that turned out to be one of the best things I've done. I've been able to draw that salary for a long time, and I was drawing GI Bill money too. So all that worked together for me.
So after Middle Tennessee State, where did you end up going?
Became the head coach at LaGrange.
At LaGrange. That was in 1980, I believe, or right around there, 70. You were after Coach Hightower.
Yes. You're right. It was 1980. And I love LaGrange. That was just, oh, it was a challenge the first year. I think we won 5 games the first year, but after that, we got a little better. Those boys would get after you. I enjoyed those teams. They were great.
Yeah, and I believe you were at LaGrange for 3 or 4 years and then had an opportunity to go back to college.
That's right. I went to West Georgia with Bobby Pate, and I'd coached for Bobby Pate already earlier at Cherokee. But yeah, we worked with Bobby there for, I think we just had 1 year, and then Bobby took the head job at Hartwell, and I'm trying to remember where I went from there. I didn't get the head job, so I'm thinking maybe I know what I did. I sold real estate. No, I worked selling real estate for a year. I sold very little of the real estate for a year or so, and then I took the job at Forsyth County High School. I think I'm telling you right there.
At Forsyth County High School, and that's when it was a one school system then, wasn't it?
Yes, but while I was there, after my second year, they opened up South Forsyth, and I lost a lot of players. So I'm trying to remember.
It was tough too, getting that situation situated.
Yeah, that was now. It was challenging. It was challenging, but we got better. I think anything that you're doing, if you're getting better, your enthusiasm is strong, and you got a chance. It's just the belief of what's coming. When you're not getting better and you're getting worse, then you're getting down, and that's not good. So getting better is almost as important as winning.
Oh, I agree with that 1,000%, especially when you're going into a place that hasn't had much success as it is. You got to have something to be able to show to youngins that you're working towards. I think
that's right.
Great advice.
That's right.
And you were at Forsyth for a few years and actually got that program to respectability despite losing a bunch of kids to a new school.
I had Chris Bennett was a very gifted player that I had there. So and he and his brother have gotten into coaching and done an outstanding job. I think Craig, younger brother, is coaching up in
Pickens County.
And I'm not so sure where Chris is right now. Oh, Chris could run though. Oh, I enjoyed watching him play.
Yeah, they both played at West Georgia. I had Craig on he's been on the podcast. I've had him on. He's a good dude. Yeah, I really like him. Good ball coach too. I saw him at the GACA All-Star game this past year in Macon.
Okay.
And he agreed to come on as well. So he was in he was in season 4, I believe. But he did mention that him and his brother played for you.
Well, they were good players. They were, and they came from a good family. Mom and Daddy were outstanding people. So I'm glad to hear that they're having some success. Really are.
So after Forsyth, where did you head after that?
Well, John Thrower got in touch with me and came up to see me and talked me into coming to East Coweta.
And y'all had worked together at Cherokee, right?
That's right. He was an elementary basketball coach up at Cherokee and had a wonderful attitude about what he was doing. And he had a lot of influence on me. John just a good person. And he liked folks that were committed to what they were doing. So he and I got along real well. We did. But that's right. I had met John up at Cherokee.
And that relationship, talk a little bit about how important it is early in your career, building those relationships with other coaches for down the road.
Well, I think it's important, and we talk about this character and the moral aspects of it, and everybody doesn't have to see totally eye to eye, but for having folks around you that you trust and think care about you are extremely important. And I might mention Drew now. He coached with Craig Bennett. Not coached, but played with Craig Bennett up at Forsyth. But Drew is the offensive coordinator at the Naval Academy. And Drew has been a head coach at 3 different colleges to this point. But the one thing that I admire about Drew, he is not a respecter of people. He doesn't work real hard at who somebody is. It's what they are inside and who to trust. And I think that might be one of the most important things that we can say. I've mentioned mainly the head coaches I've talked about, but there's some of the guys that just coached on the 9th grade that I have the most respect for and whose character is what we're looking for. And that we can trust with who we are and who can help us in getting ourselves back straight. So I did want to mention that.
Yeah, that is important because we need people that can tell us, as Coach Prime says, sometimes you need somebody that'll tell you that you got spinach in your teeth.
That's exactly right. Well, one of the great people I coached with in LaGrange was David Traylor. David's grandfather on his mother's side was a head coach at Georgia back, I don't know, I guess in the 20s, 30s. But David is not a respecter of persons, just good people. And he has been the offensive coordinator in several different positions down in LaGrange and helped them have some real good teams. But there's not a lot of people I can put in that category that I can put in there with David Traylor and John Thrower, the folks like that. They're impressive people.
So John Thrower's the AD at East Coweta, and they got a hot mess. So he calls Dr. Danny Cronic to come work some magic on it. And you decide to go to East Coweta, and you were there for 17 years, I believe.
17 or 18.
Yeah,
that was a good move for us. That was a good move for us.
And won a pile of games in those 18 years.
Well, we had some good teams. We had some good players, and
got to coach both your boys. They both played quarterbacks for you for what, like 6 years in a row.
I mean, that's right. They did. Drew was the I think first year here. I think it was Drew. It was, and after 3 years, Nathan became the quarterback for us. And that was a lot of pressure on them. And if they didn't play well, they said, "What do we do, Dad?" I said, "We'll move."
Well, I had Chip Walker on. I know you play golf with his daddy, he said. Yeah. And he said he had to bring Coach Barden in to coach him because, Chip said Coach Barden came in to be the quarterback's coach because he didn't know if they'd be able to live in the same house as hard as Coach Walker was on Chip. And I imagine that is rough when your son's, the quarterback and you're the head coach.
Well, it's also everybody wondering if quarterback, are they the best one? There's pressure that comes with that. And most of the time they are. Now, is Coach Barden coaching at Noonan?
No, Coach Barden's at Christian Heritage now. Okay. His son is at Noonan with Coach Walker.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. That's good. Frank was my quarterback when I was coaching at West Georgia.
That's right. He's a West Georgia guy. There's a bunch of West Georgia guys that are coaching.
Yeah. Yes. They turned out to be some good coaches, too.
Well, they had good mentors like you. They didn't have no choice. So the years at East Coweta, when you get in there and you get it going, and I mean, y'all had some good years. I remember one year, I can't remember if it was Dome or y'all won the region championship. I can't remember what it was, but I saw you on TV or something, and you would promise the kids you would shave your head if y'all won. You remember that, Coach?
I sure do.
And you sure shaved your head.
I shaved my head, and I didn't think I was going to have to because I didn't know that we was going to win those last few games. But we kind of got it turned around, and some people grew up, and the quarterback started playing well. So, so those are things that kind of go with it.
Well, what were some things when you went into these places that hasn't had the success, like when you got to LaGrange, they had a pile of success in the 60s and early 70s, but they'd had a little lull. And then, Forsyth, you went there and they hadn't been doing great. And same thing, had you get Cherokee rolling. Same thing with East Coweta, you got them way beyond respectable. When you got there, what did you think? What was the first thing you thought, all right, I got to do this first?
Well, the first thing you got to do is hire good coaches. And a lot of that, in fact, I wrote my dissertation on the teaching fields of Georgia high school coaches. And it wasn't anything more than finding out what places in the school can they teach that would help you the most, and seeing who did what with that. So I think that is where I spent most of my time. If you've got good help, they got a chance to make you rise above what you really are. So I think that's number one, is getting good coaches to go with you. But that also means that the administration has got to be working with you. But if you're not teaching the values that are important to the school system, even if you're winning, it's still not doing what the community needs you to do. So I think I really wanted to be a good football coach. Not that I was, but I wanted to bad. I went to all the clinics like you've been talking about, and we went and watched Valdosta. We went and watched Rick Tumberland practice. We went, we just went to places and went mainly to high schools. We went to colleges, mainly went to high schools. And what were they doing? We started the Iron Man. We started different ways to raise money that it involved the kids getting out in the community. We generally started a FCA chapter if they didn't have one. We would do things that hopefully that were grounded on building character and trust in one another. We started having retreats that didn't involve football, that just let us go off and have a good time and talk to one another about what some of our goals were going to be. But mainly, I remember some of these retreats we had, we call them, I guess they were more like a revival. And some of the things the kids told, they were revealing a lot about what was going on at home. But to their credit, I've never heard anything of that mentioned when we got back to school. But what happened more than anything was their tolerance of one another went up tremendously when they understood the problems that each other had. That was one of the best things we ever did.
Oh, that's awesome. I was also told that you were one of the first. I know you were one of the first with Iron Man, but I was also told, John's little brother David told me, that you were one of the first people ever to, when you put a program together at LaGrange, the players took pictures with the family.
Yes.
For the program, that it was a way to get everybody involved. That's pretty innovative in 1980.
Well, I felt like, and it let me meet the folks. And it also, at 1980, race was a bigger deal than it is right now. And that let all of them be on the cover together. That I felt good about. I did feel good about that.
It really helps bring a community together, doesn't it? I mean, just getting the families involved, and because everybody gets behind football. They don't care. They don't care. All they care about is winning. And I also heard that you started the Cowboys look, the classic LaGrange star. Is that true?
Well, now Coach Honeycutt had been the show enough coach down there before Jimmy Hightower got there. And Coach Honeycutt we still had all those high top shoes with the long cleats on them. And they let me buy new uniforms for them. And we spent a lot of time trying to figure out something that they were excited about. In fact, during spring practice, we'd get some more shoulder pads in one day. We get some more shoes in another day. We get some more practice pads. And that kept them coming back to practice till you could at least, at that time, spring practice was a month. you had 4 weeks. So that was one of the ways we kept them out there.
Keep giving them stuff.
Keep giving them stuff. Now they'll come get some new stuff now.
Yeah, that's
So,
never changed. Kids, and I tell people that all the time. Youngins hadn't changed. They got better toys now, but kids still like getting stuff.
oh, they did. And we wouldn't hardly break an egg when we first got down there, but after a year or so, boy, those guys got aggressive. Oh, I enjoyed those folks at LaGrange, but now they got worked hard. In fact, some of them, I wonder if they hold a low lip for me as hard as I worked them. So.
But not only just building community support and doing those things you did, you were also an innovator on the field. The forward pass was something that was kind of foreign to people back in that time, and I've heard stories like Coach Pitts getting up at the region meeting when you got to East Coweta saying they had made a rule you couldn't throw it, and he said, "All right, Danny, you can't throw it but 5 times a game in this region." Because even though you ran the wing tee, you did throw the football.
We did. I went to a clinic down at Florida State. I can't remember who I took with me, but we went down there. Shucks, after about a day at Florida State, we said, this ain't what we need. So we went to Leon High School. And they were broadcasting the fact how to throw the football in the wing tee. And after watching that, I could see that when they was going to throw it, they got out of the wing. That wasn't a good message. That wasn't a good message at all. So if you're going to throw it all the time, then you got to spread them out. I think our thing was that I had a hard time doing the option. It seems like I didn't have enough patience to ride that fullback and read it and do all that. So we kind of made our option being whether it was going to be a run or a pass. Now, they've done more than that now with the RPOs, and they're reading that. They write it. So we called a lot of play action passes. That was what we were doing more than anything. But it's to go along with the running game.
So after East Coweta, your great run there, is that when you went to the private school, or did you go to start the program at Reinhardt first?
I'm trying to remember. Oh, I've gotten it right now. You have to break me up. Have we already been to West Georgia?
Yeah, we went to West Georgia, and we went to East Coweta. We were at East Coweta for 18 years.
Well, the truth is, I got them out of line then. I was at LaGrange before I went to West Georgia.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got you way off track talking about. That's my fault. I'm skipping around because I get so excited hearing the stories, I forget about the timelines myself.
After West Georgia, that's when I went to trying to sell real estate.
Right.
And from there, I went to Forsyth County.
And then back to East Coweta, and then at East Coweta.
Then to East Coweta.
And then after East Coweta.
We retired at East Coweta, and I'm thinking now that we went over here and kind of started. They'd already started football, but I coached here at Heritage, which is a private school, and I learned a lot of things with that. I learned that they couldn't do the same things we were doing at LaGrange. So after a year there, and I was called by Reinhardt, and I really enjoyed my time at Reinhardt. That was fun. That really was. I got to recruit Georgia boys and starting the program, and that turned out to be real good. And then after about 6 months there, I was able to bring Drew on board. I wanted to bring him sooner, but he wouldn't leave the folks here at Carroll County, and but he came on later, and then I coached there I was actually there for 4 years, but we only had 2 teams, had 2 years. We had 1 year was building the program, the field and the field house and all that, and then the next year we had to recruit. I had to hire coaches in. We had to go recruit, and then the third year, 1 year we spent just practicing. And then we had 2 teams after that. And that was great. That was great. Drew took over when I did. I was having some health problems, but I loved doing it. It was back up in Cherokee County, and I'd always enjoyed that community. So that pretty much brought us to the end of it. Now, Drew took over for me, and he had the National Coach of the Year, I think 2 years after I was there, and Region Coach of the Year the first year. And then I think he was just 2 years. He was gone as offensive coordinator at Furman. And from there, he became head coach at Lenore Ryan, and then Mercer, and now he's at the Naval Academy. But being with Drew, and he was running the same offense in those places that I had been running wherever I had been. We call it the wing T, but it sure is a hybrid. It's not just buck sweep. So.
Oh yeah, I remember this past year when the Naval Academy was having so much success, and I'm smiling as I say this because I hope you get a kick out of this like I did. You know, all the older coaches, you know, Navy's having so much success, Drew's having so much success, and the national commentators are like, nobody can figure it out. Nobody can. They're having so much success, and everybody's like, call anybody that played against Danny Cronic. They can tell you he's running the same stuff his daddy ran for 30 years. It's like, this ain't nothing new. His daddy's been running that forever.
Yeah, he's got a lot more. He's got a lot more option in there. They got some coaches up there that's helped him a lot with the option. But we were proud of what went this year. It was really, as long as that quarterback stayed healthy, they were good.
Coach, I know you got tickled when you saw it the first time when he would move the whole offensive line over one and have somebody else be the center, and those college defensive coordinators are going, what was that? You know?
Well, we don't change the center. The
right.
guard just jumps over to the other side, so you go from unbalanced from a wing right to a wing left situation. And you don't have time to swap those better defensive ends.
Yeah.
That was what the deal was.
Oh, that tickled me when I saw that because I've seen that as a DC, and we tried that a little bit. You know, some schools I've been at, and I'm like, where'd it come from? Oh, Coach, I've seen Coach Cronic do this before. I've seen him do this before, and then you get to see it at the next level. That's just neat to me that. And it's got to be gratifying for you. I mean, you got one son that's a lawyer, and then you got one that's a successful college coach. And I know that was a lot of fun for you getting to work with your son. And I mean, that's every dad's dream, right? You coached him, you got to coach him, and then you got to coach with him.
Well, Drew, as you know, went on and played at Georgia, and Nathan played quarterback at Valdosta State. So, yeah, I'm glad that they were talented enough to play for us. It would have made a problem if they hadn't been. So, no, that was fine. And my daughter, I need to mention Lydia. She teaches pharmacology at Mercer in Atlanta. So we're proud of her.
Well, that's fantastic. Where'd they get all that intelligence from, Coach? I mean, you do have a doctorate, but
the mama did that. A coach, he can't marry above himself. He's going to struggle.
That's right. We all outkick our coverage, don't we?
That's exactly right.
And Ronnie Parsons, when he coached Biff and them in high school, I don't know if you remember Coach Ronnie Parsons, but he said that somebody asked him one time, and they said, why are you playing Biff Parson at quarterback? He said, because I'm sleeping with his mama. That's the only reason. The only reason he plays that, boy, is because he's sleeping with his mama. He said, yeah, you're right. And they took it all wrong. And then they realized, oh, that's his wife and that's their kid. Oh, okay. Well, never mind. And they couldn't use that excuse. But like you said, it's not just you. You know, if your son doesn't play good, everybody's moving. And that's a lot of pressure.
It is. It is a lot of pressure. And
you don't want to move. It's not like you're going to put the worst, I think some people think that coaches sit around on Sundays and we sit there and go, what's the worst possible thing we can do? You know how some people act in the stands? It makes you wonder sometimes, do they think we put the worst ones out there and call the worst plays we can come up with?
I need to offer this up too. I was finishing up my doctorate up at Middle Tennessee State and had gone up there, and they have the TSSAA clinic at the same time I was up there. That's kind of like our coaches clinic in Atlanta. And Nick Hyder was up there, and he was speaking some. And Nick and I had become close friends. And I was thinking a lot about leaving LaGrange and going to West Georgia. And Nick told me something that he didn't think that was a good move. He didn't say it like that, but he didn't think it was a good move. And he was right. For me at that time, that was not a good move. And he said, there's not but one thing important. I said, oh, man, what would that be? He says, your priorities. Everything is about your priorities. And that's one of the things I can tell you that I have seen true over and over and over again. When our priorities get out of line, we get messed up. And of course, I don't want to tell everybody what the priorities ought to be, but I think they probably should know. And I can see that I've gone astray. And when I did, it was because my priorities got out of line.
Amen. And that's all of us. And it's real easy to do. If you don't keep your head on straight and don't keep the main thing, as everybody says these days.
Well, winning can do that to you as a coach, thinking you're doing right, but it's not. There's a thing above that.
That's right.
And we tend to forget that. And that's easy to do when our desire to win is so strong. Oh, my goodness.
Well, I'm glad you talked about taking those youngins off and doing character team building stuff, because there's no greater calling in my mind than to be able to be that person for a child. And so many of our young men don't have that person. And if that's not your why, you're in this business for the wrong reasons. I mean, winning's great and it'll take care of itself, but they only give out so many trophies a year there's only one, there's only however many classifications, there's only one in each classification. But the effect that you can have over thousands of young men like you've had, it's immeasurable. I mean, to me, that's the most important thing.
Chris, can you remember the head football coach from Furman for a while? I can't pull it up.
Bobby Lamb?
No. I know, no. It was before Bobby.
Oh, well, I would coach. I wouldn't have any idea.
But he had a brother that was also the head coach at Wofford. And I can't, for some reason, I can't remember. He was been a high school coach for a while, but I can't pull up his name right now. In 5 minutes from now, it'll come up. But his brother's name was Steve, and we went up to a clinic, and he put Steve and I in the same room, and while the camp was going on. And we were sitting there talking one night. He says, do you know what the most important thing about your team is? I said, I get it, talent. And he said, no. They need to like one another. And that's where the idea of these retreats came from. He says the more they know about one another, the more their tolerance level will go up for one another, and the better your team is going to be. So that's where all that came from. Was
it Bobby Johnson?
No.
Jimmy Satterfield?
Yes, Jimmy Satterfield.
Coach, I had to pull it up on Google.
Steve Satterfield was his brother that was a coach at Wofford. But I have remembered that, and I believe in that. When they come away from some of the retreats, they wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. When you heard things from somebody's heart that might have been negative about them, and then you could just see some of those walls cracking and breaking down.
Oh, when you realize that other people go through bad things too.
Yes, you see that other fella in a lot different light when you understand what his problems might really be. So,
well, Coach, you've talked about some coaches, and I know that that time has, there's some guys that over time we forget who they are, but is there anybody that you think about that you just enjoyed? I know you mentioned Coach Hyder, guys that you, and Coach Pitts, people that you just enjoyed competing against, whether they got you or you got them, that you just over the years, that other head coaches that you just really enjoyed hugging on their neck before their games and talking to them, and then trying to whoop them for 50 minutes and then hugging on them again after the game. Were there some guys that you really enjoyed over the years?
Well, I would say Coach Pitts, but I don't know that I always enjoyed playing. I was watching that, and I was telling our coach, I said, he's running that counter trey, he's pulling that guard and that tackle. I said, surely we can penetrate and get in there for that. We couldn't. I told him it's just, I didn't think it was sound. Well, I put that play in. So I do remember that, and I enjoyed spending time with him. He was a great football coach. I enjoyed being around him. I really don't know. I'm going to mention this one. It might seem a little off of it because it wasn't all that often, but we went to some passing camps, and they called it the Bowden Academy. Bobby Bowden and his sons had a football camp, and most of the time it was in Birmingham at now I can't call the name of the school in Birmingham that everybody's
UAB.
No,
Hoover.
The college that's there that's in the Southern Conference.
Oh, Samford.
Samford, yes, Samford. It was on Samford campus. And rooming next to him at night and staying up with him about 1 o'clock and listening to him and the witness, his Christian witness that he had, that was outstanding. That was meaningful to me. I was sitting at the master's feet, and just a couple of things he gave me. And we had one little guy that went for us, Brad Mazzell. He wasn't big as a minute, but he won Camper of the Week with some of the greatest players that's going to play. And someone went on to play in the NFL. But he won Camper of the Week because he did exactly what Coach Bowden told him to do in running his routes. So I just that meant a lot to me, and him wanting to spend time with us. That was big. But we had Nelson Hall who coached with me. Do you know that name?
Yes, sir.
Nelson was a tremendous motivator. He got outside the line sometimes, but my boys loved Nelson. I'm talking about that might have been some of their favorite coaches, but let's see. Clint Wade has been a tremendous coach and a dear friend. And to mention David Traylor from LaGrange, that was just outstanding. John Revere. Have you heard that name?
Yes, sir.
Terry Ramsey was a very talented coach. Gary Guthrie was a very talented football coach. Larry Prather, who has been with me at Cherokee and at LaGrange and at West Georgia, was really outstanding. James Miller, the head coach that's up at Reinhardt right now, I think is outstanding. I try to go back in my mind. I'm not doing as well remembering. I should have had some things written down in front of me here.
Oh no, I didn't prepare you. I was just.
I've had some really great coaches that's with me, and they've gone on and become head coaches at other places.
I was just wondering if you ever thought about guys that you competed against that that you just really enjoyed seeing them that one time a year, and you didn't enjoy seeing Coach Pitts. You said not always, but these days you see young coaches they don't spend as much time.
I didn't really know this, but Coach Pitts used a certain officials association. And then when they came up here, he said, "No, I'm not going to use your association." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You don't have to use I don't have to use your association." I said, "I didn't know that when you played last year." He said, "You should have known that." I said, "Oh."
That sounds like something Coach Max Bass would try to do, Coach.
Oh, no, I don't know if he's trying to duke me on it or not, but I learned something right then. But Coach Gillibo, Tommy Gillibo, was the Georgia High School Association president, I think, during that time, or executive secretary. And Coach Pitts' wife was Tommy Gillibo's wife's sister. I didn't know if you knew that. Those things aren't necessarily leading to anything, except you need to know them.
Right.
You need to know that. Don't step in nothing. So, but, I did enjoy playing Coach Pitts. It was going to be a quality contest, and if you beat him, you weren't going to beat him with X's and O's. You had to beat him with some execution, and that was extremely hard to do. So, and he didn't have a lot of guys to go on and play major college football, but I think that was because he got those normal fellas to playing really well. Max was a challenge to play against with all the stuff that would happen. But Max was a good football coach. Let me see some of those that really did a good job against us. Coach Kennedy did a good job, and Lloyd Bohannon did a good job over there in Griffin. And I'm trying to remember the coach from down in Columbus. Shucks. His son now is coaching up here at now I can't call names. I'm sorry.
No, that's Coach. That's fine. There's so many of them. When you've coached as long as you have, you definitely, it's hard to keep up with all those guys. It's just, I'm just trying to make the tie between how a lot of times these days, younger coaches don't spend as much time fellowshipping because we don't have film swap anymore where you're meeting at the McDonald's or the gas station, and they don't sit out on the 50-yard line, and there's just isn't the same fellowship and camaraderie.
One person I became very good friends with is Coach Lofton, Coach Jim Lofton. I don't know if you know all the places he coached at or not, but he was an outstanding football coach. I think North Hall, he was at North Hall, he was at Jefferson, and he coached a little bit in Alabama. He died not that long ago. He was roommates with Coach Dooley at Auburn. He was a fine Christian man, and he came and watched me practice. He said, "Danny, you're practicing too long." And I did. I practiced too long. He said, "You're going to have to pull out a couple of them periods of what you're doing." I said, "Okay." I don't know if I ever did, but I tried to. But the only way I could figure out to do it was I was going to have to go two platoon. I couldn't do that. I couldn't feel like I could fit it down that much. But Coach Lofton was an outstanding football coach. He really was. And I know some of these folks listen to this. I've left out some names that are near and dear to me. I don't mean to do that.
Oh no. Well, Coach, is there other than all the numerous young men that you've had such a positive impact on, is there anything else about the game today that discourages you as far as how coaching, how people do coaching and how they do things that you wish were a little bit different of how we approach the high school game than it was, maybe not that long ago, but it's a little different that we need to get back to maybe making it an extracurricular activity like it used to be?
Well, one of the things, the game has changed a lot. And I kind of took it that direction a little bit with the passing. I don't much want to go see a high school game where they throw it every down. I still believe in that blocking and the tackling. and seeing them execute the blocking. I think that might be the thing I enjoy the most in football, is seeing blocking execute right. I know Coach Lamb, Coach Pitts, I don't know who all got in. I think Rodney got in on it. They used to get together and go watch folks who were running the option somewhere in college every spring. And I think they had a tremendous appreciation of blocking. And Coach Pitts didn't like this where you couldn't block below the waist on the outside. I don't either. I don't know that we ever had anybody got hurt blocking below the waist on the corner. That might have happened. But I think we've had more concussions than we have had knee injuries from that. That's my thinking. And I know that Drew up at the Naval Academy, they're having to change your things up a good bit too, because you send a little 175-pound guy to block a 235-pound outside linebacker, and you got to meet him chest up. That's hard to do. So I don't like that part of the way that it's going. I'm talking about just the basic things, and that coaches can kind of control that. I don't think any of us like the fact that we've got the NIL and is it NIL or NIV?
NIL.
And then you've got the portal. Navy, I might mention, hadn't lost anybody in the portal, and they can lose them up until they get to be juniors. When they get to be juniors, they gotta finish up and serve or pay a great deal of money on what the education's cost. I think people are pulling for the service academies because they can't pull up and change. And the game was instituted because of the character traits they thought that was inherent in it. And it became more of a favorite, and the alumni want us to win. But I'm not too fired up about what's going on with this swapping schools and lack of commitment to what you're going to do. I like the fact that you can, if you get behind somebody that is going to be a quarterback, you can go somewhere else and maybe get a better shot. I'm not totally against that. But the general wholesale thing where they're swapping 3 and 4 times, I think education may be slipping on it just a little bit. So that's my thought, but I'm not smart enough to know what's going to be going on. I still love to watch them play.
Well, Coach, you've gotten to watch them play for years and years, and I hope you continue to get to do so. And I sure am blessed to have been able to spend this hour with you and have you share your story with us. And I greatly appreciate you coming on and doing that with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, Chris. I'm sorry for some of the folks that I left out. And they'll come to me when I sit down to supper in a little while.
Coach, I sure do appreciate you being on with us.